Hello, everyone, and welcome to this virtual Candlelight Vigil on August 7th. You are seeing, but not quite yet hearing, the dulcet tones of Chris Dingman, who we're going to introduce later in this proceeding. But I want to welcome you to this very special occasion and thank you for being here with us at Reimagine for, as you can see here, Chris, who you're going to hear more of, as well as our special guest this evening, the fabulous Steve Guttenberg, and can't wait to be in conversation with Steve, who will be holding the space with us in a few minutes. My name is Brad Wolf, and I am the executive director of Reimagine. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to help people of really all backgrounds, all perspectives, all ages, face the hardest parts of life, loss, adversity, and mortality. And we explore together, how do we do so in a way that brings more compassion to the world, more creativity, more beauty, and what does it mean to just be with the reality of life? And so these vigils, month over month, are a space to indeed be with our losses, to sit with the injustice in the world, to acknowledge the pain, the loneliness, the suffering, but also thinking about the relationship between loss and love, between injustice and equality, pain and growth, loneliness and community, and ultimately also suffering and service. And in this way, in these ways, we believe there's a different way that we as a culture can respond to the hardest parts of life. And you out there who have shown up in this space are part of that. So thank you for being with us. We're going to be honoring our losses collectively and also thinking about the love that's in our hearts as we move through our time together. So before we get much further, I want to let everyone know that this is a ceremony. And so as you see here, we will have candles, a candlelighting vigil. So this is a great time to go and grab that candle of yours if you don't already have one. And we're going to be lighting those in the next couple minutes. And you can keep your microphones on mute. We may have an opportunity for questions at the very end. But please, if you can turn your cameras on, it is so great to see everybody out there and to feel and create a more human space together on Zoom. If you have questions for us, you can use the chat, but we're also going to be using the chat for other things like hopping in now and sharing not who you're here to honor today, but what emotions are you coming into this space with? Kind of where are you calling in from physically, and what space are you in emotionally as you show up in today's vigil? And later on, we're going to be using that chat for the honor ceremony itself, where we're going to be entering the names of loved ones, messages around loved ones, and other losses that we are holding in our hearts that we would like this reimagined community to acknowledge together. And finally, for your convenience, there is this beautiful closed captioning button that you can see positioned here. And if you click that button, you'll be able to indeed see captions flowing across the screen as we progress. All right, so with that in mind, I want to turn it over to my fabulous colleague, Andy. We have some principles that we've developed through these spaces, inviting people of all backgrounds in these different climates of grief and loss, the waves that happen over and over in our culture. We needed to create a sense of shared values and understanding of what we're doing here. And I'd like to invite my colleague, Andy Engel, to share a little bit more about what kind of space this is and what kind of space this is not.
Thanks, Brad. This is a collective space to grieve. It's a space that cultivates compassion for others and for ourselves. Most of us have arrived here with some kind of pain in our hearts, and our hope is to help people of all backgrounds and all abilities face loss, adversity, and mortality, and to create a more compassionate world. This is a space for bravery. It takes courage to show up for others, especially people who you don't know. And it takes courage to lament. and to grieve in public. There are few spaces to acknowledge and share personal and collective grief. With all that's going on in the world, now more than ever, people need access to gatherings where they can talk openly and freely about living and dying, about illness, but also about joy. I'm very happy to hear more about joy these days. So thank you for creating this space with us. Finally, this space is not perfect. We might fumble, we might falter, we might offend, but we ask for your grace. Now, what kind of space this is not? It's not about blaming. It's not about imposing religious beliefs on others. It's not about providing solutions. It's not about fixing things. Another thing I want to emphasize is that although this may not be a political space, it is a space to cultivate social justice. Our colleague Mazen Jamal has offered this definition of justice, which we like. It's an environment of integrity and wholeness achieved through healing and transformation. When justice is present, we can trust that our safety and well-being are valued in a community or society. This is our aspiration tonight. Amen.
Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing with us what kind of space this is and is not. And this is also the moment when, if you feel that these values for some reason don't align with where you're at, you are free to close the computer. But for those of you who are here and want to stay and commit to these values with us, we deeply appreciate what we're all doing here this evening. So with that in mind, we are about to now begin our candlelighting ceremony that's going to get us into our sacred conversation with Steve Guttenberg. And for that to begin, I'm going to first just briefly share, oh great, Steve has just joined us. So just for Steve's sake, we just had some music by Chris Dingman. We have a beautiful altar by my colleague Derek Hosberg, which sets the foundation for the space. My name is Brad Wolf, the executive director of Reimagine. And we're about to begin our ceremony this evening, a candle lighting, and then our featured conversation, and then an honor ceremony where everyone who's shown up today, all of you with these incredible statements in the chat about the emotions that you're holding in your heart that have brought you into a space of mourning and ritual and grieving, but also of love and remembrance. We're here together to process something and move our hearts where they're meant to be. And so just so grateful that we're all holding this space. And we're going to close then with a candle extinguishing and some next steps, maybe some questions, some comments. We'll see how it all unfolds. But with that in mind, now is the time to grab our candles. And I would like to call up my colleagues, Chris, Nicole, and Dara, to join us in reading this text on the screen, which you at home can share with us out loud from wherever you are. We'll be able to hear you and feel your presence as we collectively recite this. Before we begin that, let us now take the opportunity to actually light those candles if you have one handy. And if you don't, we will still feel the light in your eyes. All right, on my end, striking the match. And now I turn it over to you, Chris Thompson of Reimagine, to begin this candle lighting blessing.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
And with that in mind, why don't we all hold our candles up to the screen and just find one stranger out there that you don't know and take this one moment, just 15 seconds, of offering some loving kindness to somebody you haven't ever seen before, picking that one square, focusing on that square, and offering something in your heart, wishing them well-being. I am going to focus on, I see a Jennifer there with a faux candle. All right, thanks everybody. It's so nice to just spend 1 second together, little pause, and imagine if we could just send that out to everybody in the world and we were all receiving that back, how that might actually change what is actually happening all around us. With that, I'm very excited. I want to get right to it today. I want to introduce to you our special guest, Steve Guttenberg, who has joined us. Steve Guttenberg is a beloved Hollywood actor known for his role in films including Diner, Short Circuit, Three Men and a Baby, and television shows including Ballers and Veronica Mars. He's a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. He's received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He has hosted Saturday Night Live, and his films have grossed literally billions of dollars at the international box offices. He wrote and performed in the play Tales of the Guttenberg Bible at the Bay Street Theater in Sag Harbor in the summer of 2023. His previous books include the Guttenberg Bible and the children's book, The Kids from Disco. And specifically today, we're going to be talking to Steve about his new book, Time to Thank, Caregiving for My Hero, which is about his father, your father, Steve, your father, Stanley. And I had the deep privilege of reading this book. And, you know, the one thing I didn't mention as we welcome you into this space is obviously from my own personal life, Police Academy. I probably watched it before the age when it was appropriate, but your character, I just felt connected to your character all those years, all you know, the number that you were in, and then just the whole sequence. And every time I walk into a lobby, I seem to quote Bobcat Goldthwait when he says, you know, I go a 360 rotation, walk from inside all the way back outside, and I say, wow, what a lobby. And that being the lobby of life. And so, Steve, welcome to this space. Oh, and I think you're on mute, so I'm going to ask you on mute. There we go.
How about now?
Perfecto.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for coming today and giving me the chance to talk about my book, Time to Thank, and about caregiving for my hero, my dad. And I'm sure everybody out there knows someone who's a caregiver or has been a caregiver. And Rosalind Carter had a very interesting point of view that either you're going to be a caregiver or you're going to need a caregiver. And that's really the way it is. And I was very, very lucky to be able to look after my dad with my family.
And to your point, Steve, joining us on this call is the leader of the Rosalind Carter Institute, Parvi Bhatt, who we had partnered with just recently and spent a month long thinking specifically about caregiving in great detail with tons of events. And the quotes that you're referring to, which I don't want to give away the ending of your book, but seem to be a beautiful closing encapsulation of your journey with your father. Just to say, you know, your book is so incredible. As someone who, I think my dad has actually joined us here in this call, and your relationship with your father was extremely special. And it makes us all think about our parents or the people that we care about. When did you begin to realize that your relationship with your father was this special?
When I was probably as early as I could start to be conscious, maybe 3 or 4 years old, where I realized he was very gentle and he was strong physically, but very gentle-minded and toward me and my sisters and my mom, and that he had a very special heart. He was a U.S. Army Airborne Ranger. You have to be pretty tough. He was a New York City policeman. You got to be very, very tough to be a cop in New York. And at the same time, he loved romantic comedies. He loved art. He loved to draw. He loved sensitive music. He also loved rock and roll. But he took a very, very special to make me the man that he thought would be able to survive in this world, thrive in this world, and help others. So I was very, very fortunate to have a man who was so conscious.
And, you know, the book documents your history with your father and also your role in his life as a caregiver, and the drives that you would take to and fro from LA to Phoenix area, back and forth, traversing the country to be with your father in such really profound ways. What inspired you to write this book?
Actually, it was a friend of mine, a guy named Jake Steinfeld. Jake's biggest fame is a company called Body by Jake, where he was one of the first celebrity trainers ever. But he's become much more than that. He's a health food guru, and he's been on the presidential and the government and the governor's board, and he's involved with building gymnasiums across the country in schools, grade schools, high schools that need them. Well, anyway, I was in the grocery store and I bumped into him, and he said, "I haven't seen you in a long time. What's going on?" And I told him that I was taking care of my dad. And he said, "You want to know something? I think that's a book." I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to call my agent and I'm going to talk to her about you." Okay. So I got a call from his agent, Jan Miller, who said, "I think this is a book. Why don't you write some pages and let me see them?" So I did. She said, "You know what? Write some more and I'll send it out." She did. I did, and she did, and we got a publisher. And it became a book about about love of my dad, love of someone who took care of you in 3 stages. The first is when they were very healthy and young, and they helped you put your pajamas on, helped you shower, taught you how to shave, taught you how to drive. And then the drive, my physical drive in a car from LA to Phoenix, 400 miles, which I would do at 3, 4 in the morning to avoid traffic. And what I would think about, and the signposts I would see, and the deserted towns. And then the third part, it was about my dad at the present moment when he was ill. He had renal failure. He was on dialysis, and it was very rough on him. And how I would have to, and all of us have to deal with that, especially my father. So it became a book about love, about making a difference, and connecting with other caregivers, because caregiving is a very lonely profession. It's just you and this sick person in a room all day. Do you want water? Do you want food? Are you hungry? Do you want to sleep? Do you want to watch TV? Do you want to take a walk? Everything, you try to anticipate their every need. It's just you and them. So what happened was I started writing the book sitting next to my dad. And lo and behold, before I knew it, it was completed. I didn't know the last chapter would be my dad passing. It's very hard for me to accept that, but that's what happened. So it became a book, and it's a pretty good book. And we just did an audio version, and it's selling well on Amazon, and people like it, and it really connects a person with the serious parts of life, but also the frivolous parts of life. It's about Hollywood too, and how my father loved Hollywood. He would visit me on movie sets, and he actually did a stunt in a Blake Edwards pilot for me, in which he wanted to come to the set because he thought maybe he'd meet Julie Andrews. And Blake Edwards, the director, was married to her. But we were shooting at 3 a.m, and I had a stunt where I was going to jump 50 feet from a scaffold. And Blake said to my dad, "You know, you're an Army Ranger. Do you think you can take that jump? You look like your son." My dad said, "Sure." So my dad went up to the top of the scaffold, and he was ready to jump into a stunt pillow. And lo and behold, there's Julie Andrews pulls up in a Rolls Royce, 3 a.m. And she says hi to her husband, and she looks up. "Who is that?" "Oh, that's Steve Guttenberg's father." "Hello, Mr. Guttenberg, how are you?" He goes, "Oh my gosh, Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins." And she says, "Good luck." He goes, "No problem." And he jumps, and he hits the airbag, and they had a rig on him and everything. And he gets off the airbag, and he goes over to Mary Poppins, and uh, and he goes over to Mary Poppins, and she gives him a kiss on the cheek and says, "Well done, Mr. Guttenberg." And he said, "Oh, thank you very much, Miss Poppins." And she said, "Call me Julie." And so we had a lot of really good times. And my dad loved Hollywood, like we all do. We all have two businesses, our own and Hollywood. Everybody's got an opinion. The great thing about Hollywood and movies is that we work months and months and months on a movie, and in 2 hours, the audience decides if they like it or not. You know, so it's kind of a fun. It's a really interesting, fun business.
And at Reimagine, we think a lot about what you're talking about around not just caregiving, but about art and creativity and context, and the way in which our stories, our human stories of life, can transform the way that we view the world. You're right. In our current culture, we listen to a song or we watch a show, and we're like, you give it 2 minutes before you decide if it has merit. When you read this book, and not knowing you personally, there's a context around your life and your dad's life. Your dad's it's like larger than life. You are the love you have as a son for your father is something that just reminded me of what I want to say and to my father, and holding on to the preciousness of life. And that context you gave us through your life and your vulnerability around what your father meant to you, I think can really do wonders for so many people who are grieving. A lot of where we're at is needing other voices that represent the things that we can't necessarily say ourselves. And I feel like you've done that here. Was that your intention as it got going, or was it more as you started writing this book? Did you see it more as a gift to your dad, a gift, a healing process for yourself, or did it become that as it started unraveling through you?
Honestly, it was just a story. I didn't look at it as a healing tool at all. I had a great grief counselor, Mary, who was wonderful to me, but I do not think it helped me with my grief. I think grief has its way with you, and you heal and lessen the grief in your own time. That's how it happened to me. And writing the book was actually difficult because, there were times when I had to write tough things, and that was really hard to remember them in such detail, Um, but in retrospect, I pick up the book now, and it's a album to me. It's a memory album. It's a photo album, although it's not all photos of what happened during that time. It's a really detailed account of what happened. I'm glad I wrote it. I wouldn't want to write it again. I wouldn't want to go through that again because it was difficult at times. But it now brings me a smile, because I think my dad would be happy that there was an account of these things, especially when he was young and strong. He didn't want, I try to be very respectful to him when he was not well. But grief is, I hope that this book helps people with their grief. I want it to. I want to reach through this phone, this camera, and grab you and hold you tight and kiss you and put your head on my shoulder and tell you it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I won't let go of you. I want you to feel my warmth. I want you to know you're not alone. And that they who passed are here. Call their name out. I heard a theory that they're very busy, so they're not here all the time. They've got lots of things to do. When you call their name, or you really need them, they're here. And look for signs. Ask for signs. My dad's sign is a white feather, and I find them everywhere, especially at difficult times. But I wrote this for caregivers and for those who deal with grief. And I want you to know you're not alone. You're not alone. You're never alone. There's always someone out there to talk to. Now, 3, 4 in the morning, it's tough. But loved ones, friends, grief groups, the internet, there are places to go and find comfort. That the key is that you're not alone. That to battle the loneliness. And how do you battle loneliness? Community. What you are doing today. No. That is the cure. That is the secret. What you've done, bringing 400 people together at one time, you're doing an incredible service of love, more than service. You're hugging everyone. You're kissing them. You're holding their hand. You're not judging them. You're saying, come with me. Let me feed you. Let me feed you some food. Let me feed you some coffee or cake or drink. Let me feed you my love, my kindness, my care. I want to get inside your brain and wrap it with some flannel and say, you're not alone. You're never going to be alone. Even if you wake up at 3, 4 in the morning, I promise you, you won't be alone.
Wow. Thank you so much for saying those beautiful words. You know, do you feel these sentiments that you're expressing to us?
Yeah.
Are they new for you? Or are these feelings that you've always kind of had in you that have been
Yeah.
unlocked through this journey?
I've always had these type of feelings. I grew up with my mom and dad, and they're very sensitive, loving people. My mom's a tough Brooklyn lady, so she's a little rougher around the edges sometimes, but very soft and loving. She would always tell me, you're the best and everything's going to be okay. And we had a blackout one time in Flushing, Queens, the first blackout, I think, where all the lights went out. And my mother said, one day you'll have 2 big dogs by your bed protecting you. And eventually it did happen. But I've always felt compassion for people who are in weak moments. I've always wanted to bring somebody a cup of tea or put my arm around them or just tap them on the shoulder. Even the toughest of guys, the toughest of women, a little tap on the shoulder at a party, at a get together. That's very, very important. The touch. Just touch somebody. Put your hand, grab their earlobe, do a little something. It's very important. So I've always been empathetic, compassionate. But as you get older, your vocabulary becomes more sophisticated and you're able to express yourself more. And then you feel pain that, you maybe didn't feel when you were younger. So maybe I learn a little better expression. This is my first encounter truly with close death to me. My grandmother died, but my dad dying, yeah, changes you a little bit. You don't want it to change you too much. You got to be careful.
Well, it just seemed what's interesting to me is as you're talking, you expressed when you were younger in the book, you talk about being in Hollywood and being lonely. Your life is moving here and there, and though you're amidst all of these people, you're still feeling alone. And in that aloneness, you would reach out at all hours of the night, seemingly to your father. And now he's not here, and it sounds like you're still doing the same thing.
I am. And yes, I am. Is it the right thing to do? I don't know. I still talk to him, ask him for advice, talk to him every day, many times a day. I think we all have our ways. Sometimes, even as an adult, you'll have a teddy bear, your old blanket, a pen that you used in 10th grade. That's your lucky pen. Little knickknacks around the house that bring you luck, you think, or comfort. So, yeah, my dad was everything to me. And I still rely on him because I do hear his voice. And I see his face when I ask him a question. It's like, Dad, do you think I should do this? Yeah. Or, maybe. I don't want to be an immature person, but I don't want to lose my childlike wonder of the world. And one of those childlike wonders of the world is, looking up to your parents.
That's what really shines through to me. I think you encapsulated the spirit that I feel in your words. It's just like it puts you in this place of remembering what it means to just be cared for and to care.
Man, it's the best, isn't it? When it's like walking through the forest and you got two big bears behind you. It's a wonderful feeling. And you can always come home at night and everything's taken care of. And you feel that way about your parents. And they'll always love you. And no one will love you like your parents. Nobody. And, partner love, romantic love, husband and wife love, very powerful. But the way that a mother and a father thinks about their kids, it's the gold of God. It's the priceless diamond carpet.
No, let's just say in Hollywood, this kind of sensitive nature, as a man, it's unfortunately in our culture, the burden of caregiving falls tremendously on the incredible women in our Western culture and in the whole world. And it's rare in some cases for men to be able to express in the way that you're expressing in this book, to talk openly about caregiving and the love that you feel for other people. Was it your father that modeled that for you, or how have you come to, what do you think about the gender dynamics around caregiving in this country?
Well, as maybe as history goes, for the most part, many men are the breadwinners, so they have to be at work. And often women, as has been over the ages, have had child rearing and been at home. So if there's an elderly person or a sick child at home, the man has to be at the office or making a living to support everybody at home, and he can't be there as much. And who's there but, the lady? And she not only has to take care of the kids, but she has to take care of the sick person. Then if you've got a certain type of dynamic at home where the man does have time, or if the man is the only one who can take care of the ill person, the sick person, then he'll have to give up his career if he can't afford to pay for an institution for them to go to. Or maybe he doesn't want to, and he wants to take care of them. He doesn't want them to wake up in the middle of the night and see two eyes they don't recognize. So he has to give up some of his career and look after them. But I think there was a great article that Lee Woodruff wrote recently in ARP, and I was part of the article, about how many men there are caregiving. There's a lot. And it's, like any human being, it's very rough to see someone you love so much not well. But I do know that there's a lot of men out there, and of course a lot of women, who take care of somebody. And there's a lot of kids who are caretakers. They come home after school and they got to take care of grandma or something like that. Being a caregiver is a very special position. And I believe all the caregivers are angels, really angels. The patience of an angel, truly.
Maybe you can just because we're going to let you go in a couple of minutes, but maybe we can bring in just one story that really said something about your dad and you and your adventures. The story about getting, your dad was a cop, and then it's incredible that then you're in your probably most, I guess, at least by number of movies, your most ubiquitous role was in the police academy, and you wore his police academy shirt to the audition. But maybe tell us the story about what happened on the way to Adventureland.
Oh, man. Well, I was about 7 or 8 years old, and there was a great big amusement park about 8 miles away from us, or 10 miles away, called Adventureland on Route 110. And I grew up in Brooklyn, Queens, and then Long Island, Massapequa. And I said on a school night, I said to my dad, "Can we go to Adventureland tonight?" He said, "Well, it's going to be very tough. Your mom's not going to want us to go, And I said, "Oh, can we please go? Please go." And he said, "Well, the truth is I have to return some tape to a department store, to a hardware store. So we'll just go there and we'll return it, and then we'll go over to Adventureland." And I said, "Oh, great." So we got in the car, and my dad had a leather jacket, and I had a little leather jacket, and I just wanted to wear my leather jacket, and he wore his leather jacket, and we were a little gang of Guttenbergs. And we got in the car, we were driving to Adventureland, and there was somebody tailgating my dad. And he started pulling over so they could go around him. They didn't want to pull over. So my dad went over to the shoulder and stopped the car. They stopped the car and got out. A man got out, and he was very, very big Norwegian type fellow, huge muscles and beautiful, big, thick blonde hair. And my dad got out of the car, and I started, "Dad, don't get out of the car." And he said, "No, it's okay. It's okay." So he walked up to the man, and he started asking him. He said, "Why are you tailgating me? And I've got a kid in the car and everything." And the man just slugged my dad. My dad went down like a ton of bricks. And I started getting hysterical crying. And the man's wife came out from the car and started pulling on the man. And my dad came to and gave the guy a kick, pulled him to the ground. All fights end on the ground. My dad was a great wrestler. And my dad gave him one shot, and that guy went to sleep. So I was hysterical crying. My father came back. He said, "Calm down, calm. Can I have the tape in the back?" He said, "Yeah, Dad." I gave him the tape in the back. He went up and he taped the man's hands. Then he came back. He said, "Get me from the medicine kit." In those days, they had smelling salts. He said, "Let me have the smelling salts." I gave him the smelling salts. Went back and he put it to the guy. And the guy came too. And he pulled him up and he put him back into the car because my dad was a cop, you know, and put him in. And then told the woman to drive him home. And he came back and I was hysterical crying. And he said, "It's okay, Steve. It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." And I said, "Well, Dad, does this mean we're not going to go to Adventureland?" And he said, "No, we are still going to Adventureland. I promised you we're going to go." And we went to Adventureland and we went on 3 or 4 rides and we went back home. And I never forget, my dad stopped the car. It was a couch seat, you know, it's not a bucket seat. And he looked at me and he had a shiner, you know, where the guy slugged him. And he pulled me close. And he told me, "I want you never to be afraid. I want you to know that you can overcome everything. You're very strong. And I never want you to worry about me, that I'll always be okay. And I can do anything. And most importantly, I'll always take care of you. Always." And I looked up to him. He gave me a kiss on the forehead. He goes, "Okay, let's get in the house. Let's tell your mother what we did." And that was it.
You have story after story like that in the book, and I really do encourage people to check out in this book. But you're to rekindle in ourselves what it means to care about somebody. As we wrap up today, maybe I can ask you a series of just quick one-line responses, rapid fire. Even though you have such a way with words. And it makes sense why you're able to get all these incredible roles. You can really tap into something deep and powerful in the human spirit that we see through the book. Okay, briefly, what would you say to somebody? You know, I know even in our chat right here that's going off, there's so many people that don't have these as loving a relationship with their parents, that maybe don't have the luxury or the privilege or the experience of that kind of parental love. Any just one line reflection on that's no pressure, but you know, it's in some ways it's you're so blessed, but so what are some of the rest of us who don't have some of the same experiences? What do we hold in our hearts?
Love something. Love someone. Love a plant. Buy a plant at the grocery store and love it. Care for it. Water it. Fertilize it. Love an animal. Kiss an animal. Your neighbor's pet. Your neighbor's dog. Your neighbor's cat. Get a goldfish. Get a lizard. Get a hamster. Love the trees in the backyard. If you see a broken branch, cut it off. Love the man down the block, the homeless man, the shoe salesman, the lady who sells flowers. Love them, and you will feel loved. Love something, love somebody. Go to a volunteer at the hospital. Love the kids, kiss the kids. Be nice. Walk by a playground. Wave to the kids. Laugh to the adults. Love somebody else, and you will feel loved and warm, and you'll go home and you'll feel so full.
Just wow, that is such a beautiful answer. It's almost the encapsulation of I think what we're all hoping to do here in this space and in the world. And if we could all do that, how would the world look?
Pretty good.
Pretty damn good. Okay, last couple. What has death taught you about life?
That it's permanent, that our hand moves. And when you die, it doesn't move at all. There's no coming back. So really love those people you love. Kiss them. Every time you go by them, put your hand on their shoulder. Tell people how much you care about them. Do things for them. You know they like Hershey chocolate bars? Go out of your way to buy a Hershey chocolate bar for someone you love. Make a phone call. Have a list of people to call. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Auntie Edith. I haven't talked to you in a while. 10-minute phone call. Because once it's done, it's really done. You break your leg, it gets better. You get a cold, you get better. You die, you don't come back. No come back. So pay attention to them. Care about them. Give them love. Talk to people. Go out of your way. Your way. My father had a great line. He would say, don't smile for someone who won't cross the street for you, but walk 10,000 miles in a hurricane for 1 minute, someone you love.
And last one, Steve. You know, today's an honor ceremony where everyone here who's shown up is about to honor somebody or something in their life that they have either lost. It could be a person, it could be something else that they want to bring into this space. We've all lit candles, and we might all have things to share to that person, that idea. Just today, where you are, just right now, you're channeling these statements coming at us that feel really powerful. What right now, if there's anything you could share with your dad, is there anything that's coming up for you that you would like to say to him
Dad,
today?
yeah, Dad, come back. Show me a sign. Let me know you're sitting next to me. Something. Let me feel you. See you. Maybe imagine see you. Come to my dreams, Dad. Because I know when you come to my dreams, it means you miss me. Give me your strength, Dad. Tell me what to do. Be there for me. I miss you. I miss you. I miss you, miss you, miss you. And I know you're with me. But every once in a while, I'd like to see some magic that you're here. I miss you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you so much for reminding us about the magic and the love in the world that exists, and that it's possible, not just by waiting for it, but by actually going out there and bringing some more of it to the people outside of ourselves, and how the boomerang of love works. Um, yeah, you've really encapsulated some very powerful ideas today, and just are so grateful for your time, for your energy toward bringing light on a topic that is under addressed in this culture, but that we collectively here today in this space all believe in with you, and are grateful for you to go out there into the world and keep spreading these ideas, because it's really transforming the way that people look at relationships, look at caregiving, look at what it means to be a human being, and look at what it means to be in community on this planet. So thank you, Steve, for your time, and we wish you a reimagined rest of your evening.
Thanks for having me. This means a lot to me. More than I thought this would. It's really touched me. And you are a very special guy.
Well,
Thanks
you're a
for having
special
me.
guy, just reflecting back what we see in front of us. So thank you so much for being here. And everyone in the chat, we'll send you the chat. People are blowing up on the chat, just sending so much gratitude. Any other messages of gratitude, we can pass them on to Steve, and so he can see how appreciated you are, and thereby how appreciative we are of your father, who in some ways is obviously shining through you, and we're all getting a chance to know him through you. So thanks to him as well. And to your mom. Let's not leave her out of the equation.
Yes, Ann and Stan Guttenberg.
All right, thanks so much. We'll let you go, but if we're about to move on to the honor ceremony, but be well.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, everybody. So that was Steve Guttenberg. How interesting, how powerful was that? Uh, you know, I do want to acknowledge to the audience here that there was themes that came up in that conversation with Steve that definitely, you know, every person is only speaking for from their own hearts and their own experiences, and Steve has his own experience. And some of us found healing in that, and maybe some of us maybe felt uncomfortable with some of the conversation in terms of his unique life experience versus that being representative or not of so many other experiences that we want to hold in this space this evening. And so, you know, I just want to acknowledge on behalf of the organization that as Andy mentioned at the top, this is an imperfect space, but a space where we're trying to bring love into. And so we thank you, and we thank Steve for being vulnerable with us, for writing those words in his book, and all of you for showing up with curiosity in your hearts and honesty in your hearts. And I can feel that in the chat and in the space this evening. And so so thank you so much for you all being here. And every month we come together and we have somebody different bringing their perspective, their orientation, and we're all just being human together. So thank you. And now we get to the part of this proceeding that I find to be really the center of what we're doing, and that is the honor ceremony. That's really why we're here, and the conversation that we've held there, while sacred, is there really just to frame up for us our own hearts, where we are in our lives and what we're about to share. And so for that, I want to introduce to you Chris Dingman. Chris Dingman is a vibraphonist and a composer known for his distinctive approach to the instrument, sonically rich and expansive, bringing listeners on a journey to a beautiful, transcendent place. He has done significant work with legendary artists like Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter, and many other artists in the next generation. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, he released an album called Peace. It's a 5-hour album recorded as it was performed for Chris's father during his time in hospice care. Peace was released as the album of the year by music critic Rick Hansen for the CD Hot List and Scholarly Kitchen blogs, was featured in articles across the country. He returned from participating at Reimagine's first virtual festival to now host a number of events through Reimagine's platform. And those events are called Transformations, virtual soundscapes to hold space for emotions and support others on their journey to healing. And Chris, this evening, we have two Chris's. Chris Thompson, our development director, is going to join us and say some words at the end, and I can't wait for you to meet him. But for now, we are so grateful to have Chris Dingman introduce us and welcome us into the honor ceremony. Chris, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. I just want to say some gratitude for hosting Steve Guttenberg tonight. It was a beautiful series of messages he had to share, and I'm really moved. As Brad mentioned, I'm a vibraphonist and composer, and I'll be playing in a second. I had the experience of caring for my own father through music by playing for him in 2018. In the final months of his life, I played the music and recorded it as I played. He used it to help himself with rest, with life reflection, and that was a very transformative experience for me. That became the Peace album that was released in 2020, and that led to me creating Transformations with a sponsoring organization called Connect.Faith. And we hold transformation sessions twice a month right now. And in the fall, we'll be launching a new series around bereavement. So hopefully I can share a little bit about that after the ceremony. But for now, I'd like to invite you to think of the people that you've lost and love, and to share those names in the chat. Part of what we do with transformations is I invite everyone to share where they're at emotions, and I was happy to see that that happened today at the beginning of the meeting. So I'm keeping that in my heart as I play. And while you're playing, while you're writing, I'll be playing, and I'll be taking a sec to move over to the vibraphone now and play a 5-minute piece while we honor those who have passed.
Thank you, everybody. How about we collectively take some deep breaths before we extinguish our candles? On the count of three, let's take a little pause. 3 deep breaths. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Let that air fill up your lungs and breathe out. And breathe in. And out. One more deep inhale. In. And out. I want to acknowledge all the sacred messages, the names in the chat. I invite everyone to scroll back through those names to see the sheer volume and power of love that's in this space here together. And also to acknowledge all the names that were not shared in this chat, but may exist in our hearts. I also want to thank Chris Dingman for that incredible opening into this part of the experience. Just gorgeous. And to think about the context of your music in this space means so much. And so we're blessed and grateful to have your true humanity express itself through your music for all of us and for all the names that we shared. And now is the time where I am going to invite back, I think you, Chris. We're going to extinguish our candles and wrap up the formal part of this service. I'm going to bring up a prayer here for all of us. Let's see if I can find it. All right. So I invite all of us to read this together, and upon conclusion of reading this 3 times as a community, we'll count down from 3, and at that moment, we can all simultaneously extinguish our candles with our breaths. If you would like to keep your candle lit, feel no pressure to extinguish it with the community. This is a space where we hold everyone's interests and intentions. Additionally, if you do not have a candle this evening, but would like to participate in the extinguishing, another beautiful deep breath will signify your participation in this part of the ceremony. Chris.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world. To keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor, today and tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor, today and tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor, today and tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives.
3, 2, 1. So that concludes our formal service this evening. I would like to now invite my colleague, Chris Thompson, who is such an inspiration to all of us in this community, to me personally, to share a couple reflections on this evening and to let you know how over the next few minutes, we have a couple more minutes together before the end of our time, that you might help participate in actually providing some feedback on this occasion, and also ways that you can involve yourself. We have a survey that you can kind of do between now and the end of our time that we want to put in the chat. But Chris, I want to welcome you to this space.
Thank you so much, Brad. What an amazing night. Just reading through some of the comments, just that alone was just inspiring. And then also to hear Steve just share about his life was just amazing. For myself, it's been almost 2 years since I lost my own mom. And, one thing that I learned from Steve was to keep telling stories about her, to keep her memory alive. Like I found myself recently just forgetting how she sounded and what her voice sounded like. I really miss her. And, I was the caregiver for her for the last 6 years of her life. And so for me, my most recent memories are always about caring for her, right? But there's so much fun stuff that we did throughout life that I got to start remembering. So I'm really inspired by what I heard tonight. When Steve said, grief has its way with you, that really resonated with me because, yeah, you just never know how it's going to come, and I'm now learning how to embrace it, from the guilt that I felt from not being the best caretaker that I could have been, to the pain in my stomach from missing her. Like, I'm so grateful for this space. What Reimagine has provided for me has not only helped me, but it has helped my father, who lost his wife at the same time that my mom passed away. It helps me to help my own children because we come from a culture that doesn't really speak about grief and loss. And so just the tools that I've learned are so critical, not just for me, but for my own community. And so with that, I'm just so grateful for you guys tonight. This space is such a unique space. I mean, we can be vulnerable, we can share, and something that's so human. And yet, if I saw any of you on the street, I probably wouldn't connect with you. I probably would just walk right past you, and you'd probably be afraid of me because I am a big guy. And and unbeknownst to how I show up professionally, I can be very antisocial and introverted, right? So this space is just a unique opportunity just to connect on a very human level, in a safe space that we can just have that community. So I'm super grateful. And I guess my ask today is, as we are, coming to a close, you'll see a link for the chat, in the chat, to participate in a survey that really creates a space for us to get feedback in terms of your own experience, but also the opportunity for those who are able to support Reimagine by making a financial contribution. That's something that we also welcome, because this space is such a powerful space, yet it is sustained by the generosity of individuals like yourself, who are part of the community, who want to see others have this same experience. And so your generosity actually helps these events to become something that is free and accessible for everyone. So please, if you are able to make that contribution, please visit us online. If you want to figure out how you can deepen your engagement, we do have a Catalyst Circle that is made up of individuals who really want to do more in terms of helping to advance the mission of Reimagine. So my email is provided. Feel free to reach out to me. We can have that conversation. But again, I am very grateful for all of you here tonight. As Steve mentioned, that the cure for loneliness is community, and we have this here tonight during this special moment. So again, thank you so much, Brad, for the space. Thank you to all of you out there. I see your wonderful and beautiful faces, and I'm grateful to have community with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Chris. I wonder, can someone drop the survey link into the chat? That's what I'm really hoping someone can do on our team. If not, I can grab it. Aha, there it lies. Thank you, Nicole and Dara. What a team. Yeah, this is, there's people behind the scenes, Nicole, Chris, Andy, Dara. We have a small, am I missing somebody that's here tonight? I hope not, but we have a small but mighty conglomeration of volunteers and staff that are making all this possible. Our mission is to make sure that everyone has free and engaging support in the face of all the pain of life. It's like, why does that have to cost so much money? to be to get that type of support? Can there be more spaces like this? And what's making that possible are people like you who actually host spaces on this platform. You can create your own event, as literally thousands of people have done for their own communities. You get inspired by it tonight, you can host something, and we can give you some of the tools and resources to do that. I want to bring back my colleague Andy now while you're filling out that survey. And I just have to say, I was in the chat and I saw Lisa's comment, and she started writing, sometimes I sign on to attend one of these and I think I just can't do it. I just can't go through. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Lisa's about to say this is just, she just can't do it. And I was feeling, oh no. And then your message, Lisa, turned. And then I pushed myself to enter the space, and oh man, all the relief and joy and gratitude flows. So thank you so much for going all the way through us. That literally means so much. And, to change our culture where we have to walk in silence and shame around some of the feelings that naturally come up as part of the human experience is just so strange and so wrong. But yet we also want to protect safety. So there's this tension that we hold at Reimagine between wanting to create a world where we can be vulnerable, but also realizing that's not the world that we live in fully. And so, how can we move inch by inch toward a place where we can create more love in community? So I keep talking. That's not my intention. My intention is to bring in Andy to share some upcoming events with all of you, more opportunities for connection and for gathering. Andy.
So I hope you'll all join us for these 2 gatherings this month. On August 13th, we've got our COVID grief gathering led by spiritual coach and healer Patty Montoya. This gathering is specific for those who are navigating pandemic-related losses. And that's all kinds of losses, not just death loss. On August 15th, Krista Beth Atwood will lead our Room for Grief, which is our monthly drop-in gathering to learn about grief and to get support from peers. Krista Beth is a pastor for those who don't do organized religion, and she's been a long-time Reimagine collaborator. I hope you can come. And a special shout out to Chris Dingman, whose music I found absolutely mesmerizing. It put me in the right state of mind. The genesis of your album is so meaningful, using creativity to honor your father. So I hope all of you will sign up for these 2 upcoming Transformation Soundscapes on August 12th and August 27th. And then finally, well, not finally, we have our next vigil on September 4th with our featured guest, Julie McFadden. You might know her on TikTok as Hospice Nurse Julie. She has more than 15 years of experience sitting at the bedside of the dying, and she's the author of the new book, Nothing to Fear, Demystifying Death to Live More Fully. And I do want to give you a heads up with the next slide of our series on identity loss. This will be next month in September. It's a 3-part series. It all came about because we wanted to explore how our sense of self changes across the arc of our lives. We have transitions galore from to adulthood, breaking up with a loved one, divorce, estrangement from a family member, losing a job, infertility, menopause, illness, retirement, elderhood, you name it. And we're encouraging our community of collaborators, and that could be some of you gathered here tonight and some potential collaborators, to consider hosting your own event on identity loss. Because we can't possibly cover every aspect of identity loss in this 3-part series. So we want to see more. And that's where all of you come in. We can paste a link in the chat to learn more about how to host your own event or experience on our platform. And we hope to see you at more Reimagine events. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. And I just wanted to note, and I know this is in the survey if you are interested, but we at Reimagine have been building a brand new offering for you to rewire social media as it currently stands, in large part toxic, um, because of its agnosticism to just all actors, all types of content. It's not necessarily the safe place. As Anne Lamott, one of our collaborators, says, we end up comparing our insides to other people's outsides, and that is a recipe for no goodness. And so we have leaned into the science of what's called post-traumatic growth and re-architected how we might relate to one another, to go on our own journeys of transforming, transmuting, alchemizing all that comes at us in life into new energetic forms. And we've built a platform for that. And we are looking for folks to pilot it with us, to try it out, to give us feedback. We have a number of people from our Reimagine community trying it right now. We're working with Stanford University, the medical school there, and they're going to be implementing this with their medical students, and some other communities that we're doing some early pilots with. And we'd love to invite you. So in the survey that Chris shared forward, or that Nicole put in the chat, you can indicate if you want to be part of the early testing and feedback process around this, which is coming your way. And we're super excited about and the way that we can scale up some of the things that we're talking about here to broaden this conversation to hopefully more people, but ways that can support each of you on your own life journeys. Okay, yes, I just wanted to end with this poem. Try to bring together some of what Steve rather was saying, and as a thank you to Steve and Chris, this is a brief poem called Love Brings Love. Love brings love. Buy a fish. Love a dish. Love your friends through the end. So that's what I was hearing from Steve. Just love, 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 and see what comes back. And then to the Reimagine staff and to all of you who have attended this, thank you. Every month, sad but glad to mourn, grieve, grow in love together. All right, so with 3 minutes, we have some people on the line. You know what's so interesting about this specific vigil? This is the only vigil I could ever think of that we've hosted here that there's been no female voices in the conversation, which is, you know, I think some of us, I think, noticed that even earlier, and then it's really persisted, which is just a unique. Usually it's the opposite, more so. To remedy that within the next 3 minutes, and just to help us leave this space, I know you can say no. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Nicole Tan. Nicole is one of our Reimagine staff members who works tirelessly behind the scenes to share and support the collaborator community and do so much on behalf of Reimagine. And she's really, I don't know if you've ever actually, maybe you have, but certainly not while I've been here, spoken at one of our actual events. And I just wondered if you had any reflections on tonight. No pressure whatsoever, but Nicole stays up late with us. Where are you right now and what time is it, Nicole?
I'm dialing in from the Canary Islands. It's 2:28 a.m. in the morning. But I'm just so happy to be here. And I was so touched by Steve's insights and sharing his experience with his dad. It reminded me a lot of my father, who passed away 8 years ago, and still the pain has never lessened each day. I mean, it changes. Like Steve said, grief does its own thing to you. So it's really heartwarming to know that there's someone else out there that is sharing the similar feelings, and just realizing that you're not alone is something thrilling for me. And I'm just so grateful to be here and seeing everyone being so open and sharing the names of their loved ones It's like we're all going through this together, and I'm just so, yes, so yeah, my heart is full of love. Yeah, thank you.
Well, Nicole, it's such a pleasure to work with you and to be your colleague and friend and to have you share those words without any warning. So I think we're gonna have you speak at more events because and although we'll let you go to bed earlier in the future, well, will we? Who knows? But thank you so much for staying up with us in the Canary Islands. That's where Nicole lives. We are an international movement and spreading the way by an army of one across the sea. Maybe there's more of you from other countries. But anyway, it's 6:30 PT, 9:30 ET, 2:30, I don't know what, Canary time. And so why don't we just end this the way that we do. Thanks so much again. If you can fill out that survey and you want to copy the link, we'll be able to follow up with you. There's various ways to follow up there. Let's just paste that link one more time at the bottom so anyone who wants to grab it now before we say goodbye can grab it and copy it and put it in your browser. Let's make sure that happens. And then what we're going to do as that gets pasted is we're going to end this like we've ended so many of these other sessions, which is really Steve kind of stole our thunder by saying the word love so many times in the span of 15 seconds. But what we do is, because everything sounds like crap on Zoom, we've learned the only thing that sounds good is the word love, said over and over again in rapid succession. Even singing it works. So on the count of 3, I'm going to invite everyone to unmute themselves, and we can just leave into our own spaces with a chorus of love ring in our ears. And may those words, if what Steve said comes true, we will say the word love to each other and we will feel love. So it's a grand experiment that we'll end tonight with. There's the survey link in the chat. Thank you. Paste that link into your browser and you can fill that out on your own time. I think you will have the power to unmute yourselves. But on the count of 3, 2, get ready to just bomb us with love. 1, love, love, love.
Love.